Call to order, adoption of agenda.
I'll move to adopt the agenda.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussions? All in favor? Number 3, adoption of the minutes.
Council adopted minutes from April 4th, 2018, regular council meeting as presented.
Can I get a seconder? Any discussion?
I think I seen something on the minutes. I can't remember what it was. Just some technical typing error.
A second motion seconded?
Yes,
I
yes.
found it.
Okay,
I'll
okay.
take it out.
Gotcha,
All in favor?
gotcha.
Introduction of late items, public hearing none, delegation none, unfinished business and business arising from the minutes. 7.1 recommendation.
I recommend that council adopts policy 8.3, council expenses as presented.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Colleen?
Yeah, I just want a clarification on something. So I'm just gonna find some. Okay, so when it's saying, so section 12, the per diem, section 12A and B, just a question. So in our council agenda tonight, you're asking for travel expense for going up to
Fort Nelson.
Fort Nelson, right? Okay, so if we follow this expense guide, I just want to kind of go back and forth between the two. So there's a $75 fee for that, for meals that you would be going to.
That's what's in John.
I know, I'm just using that as an example,
Oh, I see.
okay? I'm just
Okay.
using that as, that's all it is, it's just an example,
Okay.
okay? So there's a $75 fee. This is just an example, I'm
Oh, I
saying, okay?
understand.
So the village is paying for that $75 fee. So in this expense guide, $62.50 is all we're allotted for. And you're actually, the village is paying 75 for, so we're actually in whole $13.
I never ever put in for.
No, I know, I'm just saying,
You
if that was
could,
the
yeah.
case, if that was the case, so we would be going to functions outside the community for free. Chris?
I'm not sure how to respond to that, Your Worship. That almost seems like a one-off scenario.
No,
with this.
because every time there's a meal paid
Yeah.
by the village, we will not get our per diem,
No, not necessarily, Councillor Evans.
because that's how it's.
The way the
states.
expense sheet is written up is that if the meal is already, it goes back to the intent of the per diems, it's to cover meals and incidental expenses that aren't part of the registration fees. So if an event includes a meal and the village is paying for that up front, on the expense reimbursement sheet, there's a section where it lists the various meals. If I'm not mistaken, lunch is $20.
It's saying that it's getting deducted, and the meals will be deducted
Deducted
from the cost
Yeah, from
of
the
the per diem.
$62.50, because the $62.50,
This is a typo.
But then-
Chris.
yeah, not provided for.
Which is a typo.
It's a typo.
What is?
This has to be a typo. Because village which are in addition to be the base registration fee will be deducted using the actual cost of the meals as indicated on the registration form.
Yeah, so the per diem is there to cover meals and other expenses of going to a council-specific function. If there's already a meal cost built into the registration fee, then at that point, there's an instance of double dipping because the councillor's getting a per diem, which is supposed to cover the meal, but the village has already paid for the meal as part of the registration fee up front. So the form is set that there's a deduction there that happens if the meal is covered already by the village in the registration fee.
Okay, so can we have it in wording that this doesn't confuse anybody?
Okay?
So,
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't understand it at all, because, and so so you're gonna say, okay, well, we're paying $75 for that event, correct? But then, so we're gonna have to figure out what that meal actually costs and then deduct, so it's not an actual $75, the meal's gonna cost, how are we supposed to know that?
Yeah, okay.
So this is really, can we have some other way of doing this, because it's really confusing.
Andre, you want to?
Just want to add that, Your Worship, that we also added item E on number 12. Does not include the meals provided on major conferences for UBCM and that's separate, right?
Yeah.
On separate, separate.
Because those banquet meals are about $90, I think, we said a week. So again, what that is let's say a counselor registers for an all-day event, for example, that includes lunch. So it starts at 9 a.m., finishes at 4 p.m., and there's a lunch provided as part of the registration fee. If it's a flat registration fee, let's say of $100, to Councillor Evans' point, there's no way really knowing how much of the lunch is actually part of that $100 registration fee. But when we go back to our travel expense claim form, there's a section on it that says lunch is estimated or assumed to be $20 if it's not specifically broken out on that form. So that counselor would then be able to claim a full day per diem, but part of the per diem money is to compensate for food. But in this case, food's already been covered by the village up front as part of the registration fee. So there's a small amount deducted from the per diem to account for the fact that the food's already been there. Otherwise, in effect, the village is paying for the cost of that meal twice.
So it's $20?
It'd
Would
be
be
$20
$20 for lunch, for
It'd be
instance?
$20.
What about the $90 for the supper that's,
Yeah, so those ones we've specifically
That's
excluded.
those are the ones we got out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So those
So
ones,
it's just the supper then that we got out there?
well,
The banquet.
it's the banquet ones. So
Yeah, it doesn't
also,
mention that, but.
also on the form, we've got, so the form's listed as $15 assumed for the cost of breakfast, $20 assumed for the cost of lunch, and $35 assumed for the cost of a dinner, of an event. So, again, if it's,
So if it's a meal that the village hasn't paid, then we don't have to pay it because it's covered by another corporation, right? Is that correct?
in that case then too, yeah, that's the way that the policy's been applied. So if it's a corporate event, and there's no registration costs up front to the village, then there's nothing offset. The taxpayers haven't already paid for the cost of that meal.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's coming.
Fine.
Is the per diems the same as in Dawson or Taylor or Fort St. John, like, are they the same? I know that one time we had a sheet that showed it.
Yeah, and we brought that up, yeah, that was on a couple
You
of
checked
council
that?
meetings ago. And then Adam also brought it up just
Sounds
before
about
he
normal.
resigned as well. They're pretty similar.
But with the meal thing, are they the same with the meal?
That I don't know off the top of my head, but, so I can't speak for Dawson in particular. We'd have to look at that. I'd have to examine each of those communities.
Because I know, like, you had a
Policies, one by one.
sheet that was on our desk that we did, but
Yeah, we brought it back there a couple
Yeah.
of weeks ago when this first came up.
Yeah. Can we look at that?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay, so can we table this?
Yeah, for sure.
And also, can I just ask, where is it in here that you said there's something changed in regards to like a Milford Chamber of Commerce is covered now for any member, up to $50, I believe it was?
Yeah, that-
We never discussed that. Do you recall you talked to me about it?
Yeah.
But I don't believe you discussed it in council about it.
It's,
13A.
yeah, 13A, Councilor Walker.
Okay, I just wanted to see what it says. Just so we get that chance to change or not, or.
If the event is $50 or less, and within the council's portfolio, no report.
Okay, it has to be within the council's portfolio.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the thing I want that clarification. Good, thank you.
So it is tabled. Okay. So, 7.2 recommendation.
The council direct administration on one of the three options for the old library, sell the building on the offered price of $25,000. 2, counter with a higher amount. 3, decline to sell the building.
Can I get a seconder?
Second.
Discussion? I'll start off the discussion. I want to put a motion on the table that states that we will not be selling this post office, or what is it called? Library at this time.
I'll second your motion.
All in favor?
No discussion.
You have discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss one thing. Just because it was brought up, the fact that the Kuskupi School, or Kuskupi Church did put out something to the community, to all the residents, their letter. So we know there's 31 people against this, but we really don't know how many are in favor. So I just want to put it out there that we don't have all the facts. So,
Yeah, but,
well, that's all I'm saying. I just want that put out there.
that's fine. So where's that letter, Chris, do you remember? I have it right here. So it says here, that the assets must be advertised to a general public to ensure everyone has a fair chance to participate in the bidding process. So that would mean that we would have to put it out to bid for everybody, for that $25,000. And then again, Chris read in the charter, what was it, Chris?
Yeah, Division 3, Part 3 of the charter, and I've got it here, just bear with me 1 second. So Division 3, Part 3 sets out broad powers for council to dispose of assets. If a council wishes to dispose of land below market value to assist a business, you can only do so in the context of a partnering agreement as per section 21. So, as I've mentioned a few times in this, the council does have the flexibility of selling things generally below market value. But yeah, there's some conditions set out in the charter. But again, like most of the items in the charter, they're guidelines. You know, they're not, there's no, you know, if council sold a building worth, you know, in this case, $292,000 for 25, nobody from, you know, from the province can come back and issue a fine or anything like that. That you guys control the assets of the village. This just sets out some guidelines as to where and how it can be done.
Colleen had a question.
Can we send a letter to the church, just stating the facts as to why, you know, and the different, sorry, you just said, the property value. And just,
Yeah, Your Worship, I just want to ask, there's a lease, right? Apparently. When is the lease over?
Yeah, thank you, Councilor. December of this year.
Okay. Okay, so based on what I just said about the fact that we don't have all the facts, I will be voting against this motion. Thank you.
Okay. I'm in favor of not selling it.
I never voted, did you?
Did we vote?
Yeah, we did.
No.
You said no and we said yes.
Oh, okay. No worries then. Okay.
Okay.
Just
Oh,
so
we
we're
voted, please?
Just so we're sure for the minutes, 4 in favor, 1 opposed.
Okay.
Number 8, new business, 8.1 recommendation.
My turn.
Recommend that council determine the level of taxation for 2018.
Can I get a seconder? And Christopher Joe.
Thank you. So we're moving into the real fun stuff of the budget now, folks, the revenue side. As if the expenses were driven.
Get ready to introductions. I've already seen this.
So, I've got a quick PowerPoint presentation on.
Your quick or our quick?
Actually, this one's even my quick, so it's not bad. And then we'll move into a spreadsheet. I did it today with at the staff meeting, so you know, staff can attest that it's on the short side.
Never mind, let's not saying anything. I'm not saying anything.
Revenue PowerPoint.
Wayne, you can you guys can move over here. You guys want to be able to look at it? Susie?
I can see. Alright. Everybody see that okay?
Just maybe, maybe turn it a little bit that way so they can see. There you go.
Folks, good? Yeah, okay.
Pull that chair up, Wade, and sit down on there.
Pull her back.
No, raise your chair.
So there's lots of charts and graphs in this one. I messed around with the backgrounds to try and make it as visible as possible. If anybody has any questions, can't see something, definitely let me know. So on the agenda for tonight, we're looking again at the revenue side. So we're going to do some historical data, property values, historical mill rates, and then historical taxes levied. Some of this is a repeat of what you guys saw last year in our presentation. Then we're going to look at some competitive or comparative mill rates. And then last but not least, going to propose some mill rates both here in the PowerPoint, and then the last piece of this, unlike what we did last year, I've actually put together a Excel spreadsheet where if you guys want to see the effect of different levies on the total taxation, household taxation, all of that, we can actually go around the table and put some different numbers in there if you guys want. So first one is property values in Poos. So average home value according to BC assessment this year is up about $7,000 from last year. This is working with the average property. So we're taking the total residential single family homes, dividing it by the number of roll folios for this year. We've added 5. Last year we had 335 single-family homes in Pouce. This year we've got 340. So things are definitely heading in the right direction, contrary to what BC Stats is telling us. I'm gonna just put that in there while I can. So yeah, definitely a good increase in home values last year. If we go back all the way to 1997, investing in real estate in Pouce has proven to be a very good investment for residents and homeowners. We've seen property values almost quadruple over that 10, 11, or
Can you make that bigger?
20, 21. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's to squeeze it all in, I had to make it pretty small. The number here is $54,000 in 1997, and then 202 last year and 207 this year. On the business side, also business properties, 74 of them. That hasn't changed for this year either. So business valuations are down slightly this year compared to last year, about 1.5%. 207 for the average business versus 211 last year, but again, nice upward sloping curve. So in both cases, investing either in residential or commercial real estate in Pouce over the last couple of decades has been very, very good. Then we come to mill rates, which actually are going in the complete opposite direction. What we see here is mill rates for the last half of the late 90s, early 2000s, pretty steady at around 6, and then they've dropped, and we're seeing a slight uptick here over the last couple of years, and that was partly from the motion last year. Very similar scenario in business mill rates. So what appears to have happened is that as property values were increasing, councils of the past were consciously lowering the mill rates to ensure that people weren't actually paying any more in taxes despite property values going up all around us. So last year's mill rates was 2.79 and 6.77 for the business side. Then we come to the actual levy. So this is what people are actually paying out of their pockets. Green line represents the residential levy. Hasn't really changed all that much, and we can see that from the 2 previous slides where we had property values going up, rates that we were charging going down, which caused the average tax to stay fairly level. So looking back at 1997, households were paying about $484 per household, while property values were $50,000. In 2005, they were $565. Last year, believe it or not, we were actually lower than that. So, and every point in between. That I don't believe is sustainable, folks, but this is just looking back. And then the business tax levy. So that one, there seems to be more of an inflationary increase. It matches the property valuations a little bit more. Residential mill rates versus the school. This is something we talked about last year as well. The school, of course, being our only school and a very readily identifiable property in town. Since 2012, and I didn't go back forever on this, just looking at the last few years, the only year where the municipality has actually charged more than the school was last year after council consciously voted to do that. Up until 2006, we had a really weird scenario where in every year, at least back to 2012, the school was asking for more money out of our residents to operate the schools, and we were asking for it to operate the entire rest of the village's operations. So that's kind of unheard of. And I would imagine that if I investigated the other 300 and some odd municipalities in BC, I might not find another scenario of
There's
this.
lots of them, actually.
Is there?
There's lots.
Okay. So if there is, then that's something that those councils need to address too, because whether or not it's unique to us or actually a little bit more prevalent out there, it doesn't make a lot of sense. We're talking about one property with a dozen employees, teachers, so on and so forth, that are actually spending more money on an annual basis than we are to clean the streets, maintain all the parks, the recreation facilities, all of that stuff. So it's something that we intentionally reversed last year. I don't know the school rates yet for this year, so I wasn't able to compare 2018, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. So last year's proposed levy, getting back to that, 2017, we shot for a target of 560. When the dust settled, it mathed out to about 563 by the time we applied the rates to the actual rolls and everything went in. million. 2016's levy was $24, so just as a refresher, what we did was we asked for about an additional $3 a month per residential household, or $36 a year. That gave us $19,000 or almost 20 in additional taxes. Over on the business side, we upped it by $91 or about $7.58 per month per representative business. So, you know, definitely not astronomical increases, and I remember when we had that discussion, it was, you know, everybody was pretty concerned that it was something that people could afford and made sense. So for this year, pretty similar scenario again. I'm proposing that we increase it by $3.33 a month from the $5.60 last year up to about $600 on the residential side. And then a little bit more modest increase on the business side, just due to the decrease in property values, so $25 a year or $2 a month from $14.32 to $14.57. If we go through those numbers, we would generate about $11,000 in additional taxation over on the residential side, and a modest $1,800 on the business side. Anybody have any questions about that? PowerPoint? No. So conclusions of that little bit of information is that the village, again, looking at the slides, the evidence is kind of there that there hasn't really been a significant conscious increase in taxes in about 20 years. The proposed residential increase is very modest, as well as the business one. Now we can go take a look at the spreadsheet.
I went on the, just so you know, websites for the government BC, and it says every community with the mill rates, regional district rate, the hospital, school, and everything, and there's actually quite a few of them
Yep.
that actually have school as.
School is higher, right?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few of them.
Can you send me that by email by any chance, please? Scott?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind taking a look at that.
And it has every community in all of BC.
Oh, and that would be through our,
So,
that's through
this
our
is
tax,
through-
that's when we send the bylaws to LGDE. That must be an LGDE website, I guess. Eh?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I'd be really interested in seeing that for sure. So looking at the spreadsheet, total, what I did here was I compared last year's 335 properties. So when I was looking at the numbers, I wanted to make sure we were talking about a household that paid taxes last year, what that amount was versus what we may be asking them to pay this year in terms of taxes. The 5 new properties, they only came onto the roll in 2017, so those folks are gonna, you know, end up paying whatever you guys decide is a fair amount for this year. But talking about the representative households, that's the way we run the numbers. So I've removed something called the non-market change, which is the new construction. So this is the total value of those 335 properties. Last year, about 67 million. This year, just shy of 68. So if we add that $40 per representative household increase over in the residential side, we get that 600, and then maybe 25 here, and then that 328,000 from the other slide. So this is where we get to explore the numbers. So this can be anything. It can be 0 in both. It can be 50. It can be 75. It's really whatever you guys would like to see, and then the cumulative effects on total taxation.
Okay, $40 for a senior claiming a homeowner's grant over $65. A $40 jump is a big deal. And I've also talked to Chris, 20% of our residents are claiming over 65. So a $40 jump for 1/5 of our population. You know, we spend more money traveling, this council, than $40. I have an issue with the increase. I don't know about you guys.
Chris, what is the seniors rate that most of the seniors are paying? Is it $100?
Not most of them, Your Worship. After, what happens with the homeowner's grant is when a senior applies for the homeowner's grant, the grant is first applied to the school tax, and anything left over is applied to the municipality's tax, down to a minimum of 100. So the community charter has a minimum amount that a house can pay, and it's $100.
And how many of them are seniors that do that?
That pay over the 100.
I don't have that number right off the
Yeah,
top
I
of my
had a
head.
few.
Well, yeah,
I
there's a-
remember taking,
yeah,
I don't know, a handful maybe,
A handful,
yeah.
okay.
but without actually going through them and.
So does our snow removal right now, does it get covered?
That's the irony of our situation, as you'll see in the written report in the agenda, your worship, only about 20% of our total operations is actually covered by self-source taxation. That's pretty rare as well. Well, I wouldn't say pretty rare, it's not that common. We're fortunate in this area that we benefit from all the large grants, Peace River Agreement grant being one of them. And the irony of going back to those slides from '97, that's pretty much when Peace River Agreement kicked in. So it would almost seem like the municipality was counting, relying on that money and not really having to do what the other municipalities in BC struggle with in terms of having to keep the taxation at bay to cover the costs. We've always, and the other Peace Region municipalities have always been sure that the Peace River Agreement money's coming in. So what that effectively means is of the total operation, for every dollar, of benefit or services that the residents receive, they're only actually paying for about 20 cents of it. In fact, it's less than 20 cents, it's about 18 or 19. So Public Works, if I remember the numbers correctly from the expense side of the budget, was about 440 or 450,000 for the entire year just to maintain the parks, keep the streets clean, patch the roads, cut the grass, that kind of thing. Going back to this, we're only talking about generating $328,000 of taxation. So it doesn't even cover the cost of snow removal and Public Works.
How many's a handful?
With the $100.
That would have to pay over the $100. How
I'd
much?
have to get Trina to pull those numbers.
Yeah.
4, 5, like
Maybe 10,
10?
maybe?
Okay. Because I was really concerned that, because you talk to seniors and they budget everything down to the $5, but like you say, there's only a handful that pay more than the $100.
On
Of the over 65.
Yeah.
Yes, Your Worship, to Chris. When does this decision have to be made on this? Can we table this and get that information so we have more information to go on?
What information?
We could, Councillor Lavoie, we're starting to get close to the time crunch here. So my hope was that there'd be a decision tonight on this information, and then the full budget package bylaw would be back in front of you guys on May the 2nd, that regular council meeting for first 3 readings. And then we've got the special meeting called for the 4th to do the final reading. The deadline for it all is May the 14th. It has to be submitted to LGDE on the 15th.
And you guys are at MCLGA the following week.
Yeah.
So is there any
So-
questions you have on it?
We,
Well, just a question that, okay, so was at the next council meeting, can we make a decision on this at the next council meeting where, because a handful, we don't know, right? I mean, if this is really gonna affect our seniors or not, maybe that's something we should know before we go forward on this. I'm just putting it out there.
yeah, it's possible if council's open to the idea of, no.
Well, there's
we're talking-
792 residents of Goose Goopy, a handful is 10.
Yeah.
There's 782 other residents in Goose Goopy that have to pay for this stuff too.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
And the residence number as well, your worship, is total residents, so it's everything from kids right up to seniors. When I'm looking at taxes, I typically work on that residential folio number. So that 335 is just the actual single-family households. There's also inside the residential category, and that's why the difference between the numbers at the bottom versus up top, because residential category also picks up all the vacant lots and those types of things, so there's another about 70 instances of those. So when we're talking taxes, it's just, somebody who can afford to have an investment vacant lot isn't gonna worry about this, and the taxes on a vacant lot, if it's only $500 or $600 for a $200,000 house, a $20,000 vacant lot is pennies on the dollar in terms of taxes. So yeah, going back to those numbers I mentioned to Councillor Smith earlier today, that 66, over 65 is about 20% of the population. That basically means everybody else is either claiming the regular basic homeowners grant, or they're not receiving any grant whatsoever because it's their second home or a vacation property.
Colleen, I think you had a question.
It's just looking through, because you can see all the mill rates and all the school, and I can see quickly just looking through this, there's a Soyuz, Oliver, and Montrose. Those are about the only places that have the school tax that's higher than the mill rate.
Seniors area.
Yeah. But most of the, like, if you compare your mill rate, our mill rate on here, and the one that you're proposing, to what is on here we're not out to lunch at all.
We're-
And actually, there's some that are less for sure, but they're very, like, they're, communities that are out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. So I also ran a comparison just for information purposes. I figured it would come up. So I didn't go to every community in the piece, but our closest neighbor, Dawson Creek, has set their residential mill rate this year at 5.16. So not only is that significantly higher than us, it's also significantly higher on higher average property values.
Taylor is 3.24.
Yeah. Those are
Terrace is 4.9.
But Taylor also gets subsidized by that.
Trail is 4.2. Tumbler Ridge is 6.3.
They got the mine.
Yeah.
Bart?
You know, now that you have said just a handful, that will be just a handful, and you say they're not gonna be paying astronomical amounts. You know, $40 max, $140. So I think at this rate, they're getting a lot of bang for their buck too, but I was concerned about the seniors. I wanted it explained.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with the
And
answer.
that's a valid concern too. So, I mean, just as a comparison, again, looking at Dawson Creek, I ran the numbers to see, based on the fact that we're close to a satellite community from Dawson, you know, to a certain extent. We're just as close to some of the major amenities of Dawson Creek as people in the top end of 85th are. We've got more parks per square kilometer in town. We've got better roads, better snow clearing, identical water. You know, and the list kind of goes on. So there's a lot of similarities or comparisons between our community and our closest neighbor. So somebody that chooses to move to Poos is getting a significant taxation discount on top of a cheaper mortgage payment for a $50,000 to $75,000 less representative household. In order for us to get to where Dawson Creek is right now, our increase here would have to be $500.
Yeah,
You know, which, yeah, nobody's gonna support, but just as a, you know, as an example.
Well, even people living up on 17th Street, it's the same distance from downtown, from 17th Street to downtown, from us to driving from here to downtown.
Yeah. I
That's the
agree.
same distance.
Yeah, so to go to Walmart from the top 85th is virtually the same from the top of Poos. So there's a lot of similarities, and there's a lot of areas where we're actually beating our closest neighbor. You know, safety, for example. I mean, all of our streets are 30 kilometers an hour, speed bump controlled. I highly doubt the city of Dawson Creek would entertain putting speed bumps every 500 meters on all of their streets to allow, you know, allow people to use them. So
So I'm going to put on a motion on the table that we settle this tonight and we approve. Chris?
Paul second.
All in favor?
okay, thanks folks. That's it for me.
Okay. 8.2 recommendation.
The council approved travel and registration cost of $172.89 for Mayor McKenny to attend the Natural Resource Rally of Wagon Social in Fort St. John on May 4th, 2018, from 6:30 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Can I get a second? Any discussion?
Yeah.
All in favor? Anybody see any correspondence that you are looking at? I will be attending the Swan Lake.
Oh, okay. I was hoping so.
Yeah, they phoned me and asked me to come because it's their 100th anniversary.
Anniversary.
Yeah, and I'm also working with them trying to get the dock dealt with.
Could we attend that also on our own?
Yes, yeah.
Good. Okay.
That's an invitation for
I'd
everybody
be
to
interested,
attend.
because I know something I read it. Members also.
Anything else? Okay. Resolutions, none. Bylaws, none. Administration reports.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Where are you, Chris, with
Good.
A few things on the go the last couple of weeks. Number one, started looking into some trees at the request of Councillor Smith for our beautification. I was able to find a species of apple tree that kind of grows here, not too bad. So I'm looking into a couple of other options. I'm still waiting back to hear from Edmonton and the city of Grand Prairie. But Dawson Creek plants a variety called Goodland apple, which seems to do well in their community. Attended the election training with Sandy here last Tuesday and Wednesday. Pretty dry, but some pretty good information there as well. Talked a lot about key agencies and the election process for 2018. So appreciate the opportunity to go do that.
City of Vancouver, have you heard the news? They want to include people to vote in the municipal, these are the things that they want. They want to include people that are not Canadian citizens but are landed to let them to vote. They want to do the ballots not in alphabetical order because I guess people tick off the first 5 people and they want to mix it around. And there was something else. And I'm thinking, whoa, for this election. I don't know if you.
Vancouver's a little bit unique, Councillor Smith. They've got their own charter. So they basically have the right to kind of set that stuff as they do. Our election process is governed under Local Government Act and the Community Charter. So Vancouver's, yeah, they're unique.
They're on their own.
Yeah.
Okay, I just
Yeah. I did speak to Katrin this week about our boundary extension project. I gave her some of the some information she was looking for. They are working on it behind the scenes, so we should be looking at another presentation here within the next month or so. We put the job ad out for summer students. At the time of this report, we had 7 applications. I think we've got a few more now. We have actually hired 3. I've got one more interview on Thursday and then another one on Monday, and that'll likely be hopefully the 4th person will come out of those 2 interviews.
How many from Booth?
All the resumes are from Dawson Creek.
Okay.
Went back and forth with our insurance provider, their hub. I mentioned to you guys what was going on with our insurance. They were able to get us a quote back for $24,000 if we switched to the Municipal Insurance Association. So I gave them the green light for that. We did get another quote from an outside broker for about $30,000, but this one had them beat. So MIA is looking for a 3-year commitment, and then we also have to have all of the buildings professionally appraised for their records at our cost. Met with Councillor Lavoie, and he mentioned that the Peace River Regional District is moving forward with the trail study. I had taken part in one of the feasibility studies for the RFP. Looks like that's wrapped up now. They've awarded the contract and also increased the funding to about $66,000. That trail project is for both our trail from here to Dawson and the Fort St. John trail into Charlie Lake. So appreciate the Peace River District, Regional District upping the funding. That's a good thing. Been speaking to our insurance adjuster for the roofs in the village. Looks like that's going to be happening here sooner rather than later. Worked with Blair on barricades for 50th at council's request. What we've come up with is these guys. So we found orange plastic hollow barricades. Again, working on that premise that we're going to test the waters and just block it off temporarily, see how it goes, see what the feedback is. Those are about $400 a piece. We can fill them with water or sand and we'll move them at our leisure. If for whatever reason we decide to go permanent over there or not at all, we can use those for other road closures as we need to do work and stuff. So we figure now we'll be able to do pulls off the road, 2 barricades, a nice sign letting people know just so nobody's caught for probably around $2,000.
So would we put them up for about, what, 6 months and then put some other, because like that's ugly.
Yeah.
Just saying.
But you can see them.
Well, and that was it. Yeah, that was it. We thought
Something new.
inevitably somebody in a big rainstorm who's accustomed to going down there is going to come off the highway at 1 o'clock and oh geez. So we thought for the first, to test the waters, it would be as bright and as obnoxious as it could be for potentially the first 6 months. and we see how it goes, and then I'll put it back to you guys as to whether or not this is a permanent closure, or if we change our line and just want to remove them and stick with what it is. Held today's staff meeting on the community center policy, so we're working on a final draft. We're struggling with that one a bit, so be patient with us, please, council. We want to bring you back a quality proposal here. And then that's it for me.
I had to park out in front of the old library the other morning, waiting for the post office to open up. And are we gonna paint that or fix the hail damage? The window frames all need painting, the paint's coming off, there's big chunks of paint off the doors. The little wood things on the front doors need to be revarnished, like, do we have
That's under the
anything?
insurance, that's from the hill then.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you, Worship. It is and it isn't. Adam and I had discussed with you guys potentially doing some upgrades to the building. The floor is still gonna happen. I was just waiting to see where the dust settled on the sale of it. RSA though did mention that, yeah, the windows that were busted and the hail damage, they're actually gonna take care of replacing. So, we'll wait for them to do that, put the new window casings. And I agree, that building's not exactly in the nicest shape right now. As a bare minimum, we should look to repaint it or reside it at some point.
Well, it should be covered under the insurance from that hill.
I don't know if they'll no, there wasn't any talk of re-siding it, it's a wood siding, so if anything, it's just beat up the paint a little more than it
Well,
was.
it's pretty good.
Yeah,
could we get that done by July 1st if we were, because we invite everybody to come into our community. What?
Still be winter.
This rate it will be.
at this rate, it will be. We can look at that. I'd have to add another line in the capital project plan, but, you know, we could,
Can we just see what insurance, do we have a thing of what insurance is actually
Yeah.
covered?
yeah, that's kind of where I'm.
Before we
leaning.
go and put money into something?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
let's see what they end up doing.
Maybe put it on our list or.
Because NDOT too.
Yeah, a 2019 project or something. Okay.
Because NDIT, the grants. The NDIT.
Yeah, because they funded us for the floor. They may be
So they
willing-
might do the
Yeah,
outside
they may
too.
be willing to fund part of the outside as well.
Are you all done?
That's it for me.
Okay, number 12.2, action items. That's pretty cleaned up, that action item.
Yeah, it is.
It's been good.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just to, Sandy just reminded me here, there's a couple. So I would, the letter to Whistler is actually complete, and Worship to sign that just before the council meeting here. And then we've just made a decision here tonight on the Highway 50th closure, so we'll mark those off as complete.
Kathleen?
Can we put on this action item, so the skate park, you know, because is that something that we should have on here, so we kind of get an update of how things are going, or?
Sure.
And then-
Update on the construction.
Yeah, just, I don't know, and then, because we had a whole bunch of capital projects that we had agreed to. I don't know, just maybe that's something that we can put on here and,
So a list of all the capital projects that we have going on throughout the village.
Is that something council wants to see recurring at the meetings, or is it just maybe a one-time, or am I just adding a line for the skate park?
well,
I wanna see what everything.
Everything? Okay, yeah, we can bring those back.
is it a, how
Because
many
if
was
we're
it?
There was 19, if I'm not mistaken, for this
No.
year. Okay.
We haven't started on that. No, I know, I'm just saying,
But 19, just to see the 19, and then as they go, we take them off the list, right? So, because then we all can remember what the 19 were, and
Yeah,
then,
sure.
so they can go away.
Perhaps, yeah, I think I
That's
agree
separate.
with Sandy.
The
on
capital projects and special projects list,
Yeah.
we'll just add it, not this on this one. We'll do another one and we'll attach it to the agenda.
And then we need to do beautification on this one, right? Action items, some kind of beautification.
The beautification projects were moved to 2019.
Yes. Yeah, the trees, Colleen's trees, but we were talking about trees.
Trees, yeah.
That's 19 too,
My trees.
Barbara's trees.
Yeah.
Somebody's trees.
We did apply for a grant for some trees, so if we're successful on that, then we might shift the other in. Oh, right, we did get that too. Okay. Well, I'll bring the, we'll create an item 12.3, capital projects list under the action items.
Okay.
And, yeah, we'll put that on there.
Councilors' calendars. We've got a busy month. So we're gone on the 6th bar, and we have to be back for the 11th. We're gonna get up at 4 in the morning.
Okay. We're doing April?
Huh?
We're doing April or May? Does it matter? I have a meeting on May 3rd. For the library.
For the library?
Yeah.
At 7? Kelly? At 7?
Andre?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I thought maybe we should put on there a special council meeting for May 4th, that we're all supposed to attend. May 24th, I'll be in Fort St. John for the Peace River Regional District meeting. May 25th, this will be in Dawson Creek, there'll be no charge to the village. It's an AGM for the Norton Trails Heritage Society, and I'm hoping to bring Les Delis to that.
What day is that again, sorry?
What day is that?
May 25th. That's all I have.
I have, what do I have? Oh, God, I have. We have NCLGA. And then I have Halifax, the end of May.
Yeah.
I have a chamber luncheon, that's it.
Right?
I'm good.
Now you have a meeting?
I got a meeting tomorrow, and I'll find out what the next one is, because I'm there. Grand opening's done, so imagine there'll be another one.
Okay. Back to the drawing board. So, reports, Councillor Evans report.
So I attended Chamber of Commerce on the 4th. I could not go to Blair's Chamber of Commerce meeting on the 13th. I had a family engagement that day. I attended,
Mike.
sorry, Bernie, Mike, sorry. I'm Bernie's. I said Blair, sorry. And I could not go also to the night. That's the week. I attended the library meeting. On the 5th, and just went over the budget. They just said they hadn't heard anything from council about if the budget was approved. And I said it was, because we went that part, but we haven't finalized it, so. Also, they said that the 10th anniversary, they had about 100 people came out and through the doors. They did the AGM, and the AGM also is Cindy Blaney is the chair. Danielle Beach is the vice chair. Ruby is the treasurer, Ruby Freeman, and
Deborah?
I can't remember who is the chair. No. When the minutes are approved for next meeting. They also were saying that there was an issue with policies and procedures. They asked if they could present us this letter. Hooscooby Library Board would like to address the Mayor and Council in regards to recent conversations that have been brought to our attention, and we would like to apologize for any past misinterpretations on part of the board and staff. Additionally, in accordance with the communication policy attached, we would like to request that if the mayor and council have any questions or concerns pertaining to the library board, or its employees of the Pooskoopi Library, we ask that they be presented in writing and addressed by the library board. Our board assures that all questions and concerns be presented with and be taken seriously and be reviewed. And there is a policy for communication and the structure of the library. The library operates according to the Library Act, and the library is a municipal library and is defined by the Library Act. The library board constitutes according to the terms of the Library Act governing the library. All communications from the mayor and village council is required to go through the following protocol via email or regular mail services, excluding texting and any other social media. The village liaison, the library board chair and the vice chairs, how the structure goes. And the library board chair, acting chair will present these concerns to the board on a whole at the next council meeting. Once the board has come to a reasonable conclusion within the 2 board meetings, then the board will then turn in response as a whole to the parties that are concerned. So there was miscommunication regarding the 10th anniversary. And there was some things that were said, and they just want to apologize for the not having a formal invite. And they just would not like that to happen again. That's it. Okay.
Can I ask, how's it going with the school board with the changes to the
We
library?
haven't done anything.
No, they haven't.
Then we come in there, so.
Thank you.
Council.
I did attend the Mike Burton event, very fun. I have a meeting tomorrow night, so I have nothing to update on that. But I would like to tell them whether or not we're gonna give them a donation for their door prize. Or if I should say less over to see you for that.
Council has a fund of about $5,000 that you can make a motion.
Like just
for.
prizes, yeah, sure, tax, whatever, it's just, I'd like to make a motion that we donate a door prize.
Some
for-
items to the,
Or
I'll
some
second.
items.
I'll second.
How about the little amount, $200? Or a couple different baskets or whatever?
Last year you guys did $100.
$100?
We just gave them a check. Yeah, we gave you a check, and they just got what they wanted and needed.
Okay, so
How many?
Unless they give me an update, he's got the furnace all out, he's been fixing the floor up to the no name, so I'm really interested to
It's
see how.
really nice.
Does it look good in there?
Yeah.
He's pretty excited about it,
Sounds
so.
great. Can we do the motion to $100? We all did?
I thought we did.
No, all agree? That's the $100.
He brought the picture in to
Oh,
where
has
I
he?
work to show me first.
Chris.
Thank you, Your Worship. May I ask, Councilor Johnson, one of the things the insurance adjuster was asking for the roofs is on the white building, I think it's the medical, historical
The
medical
heritage
building.
one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
do we want to replace the shingle roof there, or are we, or the cedar shake shingle, or are we okay turning it into asphalt shingle?
We want them all to match.
yeah.
Would we not?
She doesn't wanna say anymore.
I suggested to the adjuster that there was some historical significance in the cedar shingle, but definitely it'd be cheaper, easier, quicker for everybody
Asphalt.
involved if it was just turned into regular asphalt
I
shingle.
can bring that to the museum board tomorrow night.
Sure, I've got a meeting with the insurance adjuster on Friday morning,
Okay.
and my thought
Yeah, I can
is,
let you know.
yeah, that'd be great. My thought is to have all the shingles matched, so we're just gonna pick a single theme, and then all the town hall buildings will have the buildings in the village's possession will have all of the same colored shingles.
You want them? That's all right. Okay. Councillor Smith.
I attended the community center with Eric Leonard and Area G. There wasn't many people there, but it was good discussion. We heard lots from somebody, but it was actually very good. They discussed, what they would like to do, and it was nice to hear of issues beyond the village, i.e. Swan Lake, Caribou, blah, blah, blah. And I attended the Mike Bernier luncheon. And that's it.
Councilor LeBlanc?
Thank you, Your Worship. So April 6th, I did attend, worked a trade show booth in Chetwynd on behalf of the Peace River Regional District from 5 to 9 o'clock. April 7th, I attended the Area Director on the Beavers Roundtable, which is talked about here in Goose. April 12th, Peace River Regional District in Dawson Creek. April 13th, the Chamber Luncheon with Mike Bernier. April 16th, I went to the CEO. And if I can ask, on April 19th, are we allowed to go to the opening, your ribbon cutting opening ceremony for Don's Pizza?
Yeah, I don't know. You can show up, why not?
Okay,
Anybody's welcome.
okay, just asking.
Don's
they're gonna-
Pizza.
That's at 11 o'clock tomorrow, okay? Just so you know. And I will be attending the April 26th Peace River Regional District meeting in Dawson Creek. That's all.
Thank you. So me, it's okay,
I was just gonna flip it. I was gonna ask how the pizza went, if you let us know when he's,
April 4th, I attended Chamber of Commerce luncheon. April 6th, I met with Chris, discuss the operations of Goose, recap of the week. April 9th, with Leonard, I think it was 9th or the 7th. April 12th, attended the Peace River Regional District, then I had to go to open the new college house here in Kuskookee, they're all done, building it. And April 13th, went to the Chamber of Commerce with Mike Bernier. April 13th, again, had my weekly meeting with Chris. And April 16th, met with Sergeant Richard of Police Station. We had 52 calls in the 2017 year. I asked him for more police presence in the village and speeding around the school. Chris, go ahead.
Was that 52 or was it 522?
522, sorry. April 19th, I have to attend the ribbon cutting for our new business, Papa Don's Pizza. And then again, I'll be meeting with Chris on Friday, and then again on the 27th. And I have daily conversations with Chris, our CAO over the village. He keeps me well informed, and I would like to take the opportunity to give him a big thank you. Kudos to Chris, Sandy, Alistair, and Trina for their dedication to the village. I would also like to thank Public Works for the relentless hard work for keeping our streets cleared of that ugly white stuff. Again, thank you, village staff.
Thank you, you were.
And, can I have a motion, please?
I would like to make a motion to move into in camera.
I'll second.
All in favor?